Cool. Hello, everyone. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to Mike, Candy, and everyone here for sorting out Bytes, and obviously to all of you for turning up and donating some of your time to listen to me and some other fantastic speakers. So, my talk today is the truth about full stack, but before I do that, I'm going to go through a few boring things, which is me. So my name's Dabs. For those that are wondering, it's short for David. There were a lot of Davids when I was growing up, so I got a nickname and it's kind of stuck for the last 20 years. In my day job, I am head of digital at a company called Major Digital. We work over in Preston Park, we build websites, that kind of stuff. And if you have any interest in parlaying with me outside of this talk, you can find me at Dabs Howard on pretty much every social media. Just so you make sure I put it on every single slide. So, why are we here? And the aim of this slide wasn't really anything more than just what is my talk about. So the underlying theme is to learn. Shocking, I know, but that's the purpose of all talks. So I thought it was quite important to have that as the underlying theme of my topic, which actually is about this. So first of all, as we kind of have a room full of developers, I was having an interest as to how many people have heard, read, or thought this is true. Can I get a show of hands? A couple of you. Interesting, some to win over. Okay, so my entire talk is about the fact that I think basically this is bollocks. Really, I think that full stack is just actually misunderstood. And that's kind of what my entire talk is about. So, first of all, addressing the myth. So, there's one of two things that I commonly see throughout the web. First of all, for those of you that don't know, maybe, full stack is the idea that somebody that can work across multiple layers of the web world. So traditionally you've got front-end developers, back-end developers, server people, and a whole range of stuff in between. Full stack is the assumption that somebody can work across all of those layers. And I see a lot of blogs, things like that, saying that either these people just don't exist, or even worse yet, that either they're actually inept, or some people even call them dangerous. I see blogs like this saying that people just stumble into the role because they're particularly good at one thing and they just find maybe front-end easy. That's quite a common approach. You hear a lot of people saying that these people are actually unicorns because they're just imaginary. That becomes quite a common thread. And it goes on and on and on and on. And it doesn't matter whether it's comments, Twitter, podcasts, blogs. I see it everywhere all the time. And it kind of makes me feel a bit like this. Because honestly, I feel it's rubbish. So I think that boils down to primarily a misconception of what full stack actually is. So the main thing I see is that people expect people to be masters in all of these fields, whether it's developing AIs, building amazing front ends, back-end system, databases, servers, design, whatever a particular person's stack might think it should be, the fact that they need to be absolute experts in all of these fields, which I just don't think is true or should ever be the case. I think part of it isn't helped by the fact that the traditional full stacks are considerably outdated. So I'm sure most people here have seen or heard of at least one of these. And I think that now with such divergence of technology that these are becoming less and less prevalent as you're merging different technologies. So the truth about skills. The bit that I find really important for full stack is that it's not about being experts or masters in a particular field. It is about competency. So it's being able to understand a particular level of experience on a particular stack, whether that may be a particular front-end framework, maybe your own back-end, middleware, servers. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is important for you, as long as you have a level of competency across that stack, that's the only important thing. I think there are still benefits of having masters and experts in particular skills, and I'll come on to that in a bit. I think a very important thing is being able to bridge the communication barrier between programming and non-programming disciplines. So I'm sure many people have had it before where maybe you're trying to explain something to someone that just doesn't get it. And that's very common with maybe talking with designers who are traditionally print-based and don't maybe understand the web. Maybe it might be project managers, maybe it might be clients. Being able to communicate particularly technical language to non-technical people is very important. However, I do see the common approach that people say that full stack people essentially become a jack of all trades and master of none. And I think that is something that can happen, so I do still think it's incredibly important to specialize and then diversify after that. It is very important to still have your kind of primary stack that's the thing you're exceptionally good at, maybe you are that expert in, but then you are very competent in all of these other levels. So full stack is not. It's not a magical expert in all the fields. The same way you'd never expect a back-end developer, a front-end developer, a server admin to be a master in every single language. They'll understand the basics and the fundamentals of their approach, and then they'll go and learn the new bits that they need to learn at the different times. Full stack also will never be the same for any one business, project, developer, or situation. One person might consider themselves full stack and then 5 years later be on a completely different stack. And there's not a problem with that. But ultimately, I think the main thing that differentiates full stack from maybe either front-end developers or back-end developers is it's not about the skill set. It's actually all about a mindset. So I was trying to work out actually how I was going to try and explain this without making it sound really silly. So I kind of boiled my points down into a couple of things, which I will now address. So my main approach is that skills are temporary. And by proxy, in the technology world, that means that the tools and the languages you use are also temporary. And this lovely redrawn chart is a perfect example of that. Over the last 15 years, the prevalence of different technologies has changed dramatically. If you look at the difference between C from 2000 to now, same with Java, new programming languages like Go and Swift get introduced. And the main thing that I took away from this is that actually the different languages are becoming much more competitive now. They're a lot more even than maybe they were 15, 25 years ago. So I think that full stack is all about the mindset, and that's a very important differentiator from just being either a standard front-end developer or a back-end or somewhere in between. I just wanted a reason to put a nice GIF in, so I thought I'd have something mind-blowing. So I tried to boil it down into a couple of points, and these were the main three I came up with. So the first one, which I think is, for me, the most important one, is a passion to understand the fundamentals. And that's not about going and learning a whole different bunch of coding languages, because I consider full stack beyond just coding. It includes design, UX, testing, servers, even levels of documentation, client interface, the whole range. It needs to be able to deliver a project from start to finish across the whole gamut of spec. And I think that having a desire to go and learn those fundamentals is vital. So it is about wanting to go and learn the new UX techniques that people are using, plus the new way to build things in a UI, and then learning new back-end languages, but you can't possibly go and learn all of those things. So it's the key part is to learn the basics, to learn the fundamentals, the foundations that then you can build your skills upon. And if you understand how servers work, it makes it a lot easier to go and learn whichever server infrastructure you need to learn for a particular project or business or situation. The next point is that it's important to consistently solve new problems. And those problems aren't just existing things that maybe you just don't know how to solve, but they're new problems that the tech industry or the web space don't know. So it might be new types of devices, new interfaces, all of these new things. And then there's the flexibility to change and improve. So it's not just about being like, cool, I've gone and learned front-end language and now I'm done. Great, now I can go and learn something else, because everything is changing all the time. And I think it's something I'll address a bit more later, but I think the most important thing about full stack is all of these three things are everything. It's not just about the things you learn programming. You need to have a desire to do all of these things in essentially every aspect of your life. It's not just about going and being like, oh, I'd like to go learn a new programming language. It's trying to understand why that language exists, how it's useful for your situation. Does it solve new problems? Does it change something maybe you already felt? But it's having this passion and desire to learn these new things that I think ultimately differentiates a full stack developer from someone in potentially a different stream. So, understanding the fundamentals. I think the key here is it's more about the importance of understanding how things work and the desire to learn that. It's not just about whether it's front ends, it's about learning, maybe going and programming HTML and then learning Canvas or something like that. It's about understanding why websites are built the way they are, how browsers differentiate, how renderers work, and then building up onto the tools. So I had a question recently from a colleague of mine that was, if a new developer came into the front-end space, should they learn tables, as in building websites with table layouts? And my answer would be yes. Because although I think the technology is terrible and archaic, it's important to understand where we are now and the challenges we had to overcome to get there. And I think knowing those basic fundamentals is very important. And that works across the space. It's about working out how something communicates to something else and how the output is valid for the intended goal you're trying to achieve. So whether it be how servers work and the communication of data, how security works, the attempt at testing things where your blind spots are, it might be on design, UX, backend, any of these things, it doesn't matter. It's about wanting to go and learn those new fundamentals. Then there's the learning the new and the unknown. This, for me, is the most exciting area of the tech space, is that you just don't know what's coming next. So as an example, here are a bunch of new kind of areas that I'm really interested in at the moment. So I've never done things with digital assistants, but now I'm really interested to start learning them. Then there's things with machine learning and things like the Watson AI. There's analyzing data, UX things, more big data. The idea is that new technologies and new opportunities in the tech world, the web world, whatever you want to call it, are arriving all the time. And I think that wanting to go and find and seek those out and then learning those fundamentals is vital. And then there's about relearning what you already know and how you can improve and change, and whether that may be relearning things in UX, because UX is constantly telling us new things, or whether it's learning new tools in a space you already know, or whether it's relearning things like CSS layouts. So how many people have we got here that have done any of these at some point? Quite a lot. And how many have done the first two, so tables or floats? Pretty much the same amount. So it's the idea being, people knew how to do tables and floats, and whilst that wasn't necessarily how CSS and HTML was designed to work for layouts, we may do, but now we're in a new world of flex and grids. And the idea of having to kind of almost unlearn doing it one way and relearning it in a new way is very important. Yep. So a quick thing about learning. So in case you hadn't guessed, I would consider myself a full stack developer, hence why I've done my talk on it. So I just wanted to give you an idea of why I think that full stack kind of is a thing and the importance of it. So this is a big list of a whole load of icons, or logos I should say, of different things on the web. So hopefully you've all seen a good bunch of these, depending front end, back end, servers, whole range of different things. Everything on this list is something that I've wanted to go and learn at some point. And whether it be front end languages or back ends or servers, it doesn't matter. Just the idea of it being a new technology that I don't know means I would like to go and learn it. This, though, is the list of the stuff that I've actually done. So it's a big subset of that, but hopefully, in theory, if I were to give this talk again in a couple of years, that would be much more filled out, because I want to go and learn and touch them. I never expect to be experts in all of these things, though, and that's, I think, the key thing for a full stack developer. It's about understanding these technologies, but not necessarily being experts in them, because these are the things I would consider I'm very good at the very least. And I think that working through the scope of these things is the important aspect. It's about going and learning and understanding how things work and why they exist, the pros, the cons of all these different languages, frameworks, tools, whatever they are. So I wanted to give a quick snapshot, because the big thing I've spoken about so far is that it's not just about programming stuff. So here is a list of all the things that I went and asked different people what they think I do in my job, and this was the list that I got. So it's a whole range of stuff, from front-end design, UI, project management, copywriting, security. The idea being is that these are all different things. If somebody said, can you go and do it, I'd at least be comfortable saying, I can competently do it on one stack. There are definitely areas where, especially with things like servers and things, where I'd want to get an expert in to either validate what I already know or to do something better. Because I think the key for full stack is it's not about replacing all of the different spectrums, it's about being able to kind of work across them and then bring in the experts as and when you need. So I wanted to briefly touch upon the value of full stack. So the thing I spoke about briefly earlier was the kind of ever-expanding new technology scope of the world. So I wanted to do a very quick show of hands, although I've done it a couple of times already. How many people here either have or have used a smartwatch, chatbot, or digital assistant in the last 2 years? And now keep your hand up if you used it in the last 4 years. As in, sorry, the 2 years prior to that. One person. 2 people, maybe. So the main thing with technology now is the adoption rate is increasing exponentially, that we almost can't keep up. It took 15, 20 years for websites to become kind of a common thing that people would go to and use. Smartphones, there may be 5, 6 years. Tablets, 3 or 4 years. Web apps, maybe a couple of years as well. Smartwatches, so 3 years ago, Apple never made a watch. Now they're the biggest watchmaker in the world. I've got a Fitbit here. I know I've already seen a different bunch of people who've got different smartwatches on. Chatbots, digital assistants, smart homes. These are things that now my dad is talking about. He has an Alexa. He's getting the new light set. These are things that just weren't about a couple of years ago, at least not to the mass market, and now they are. And with more things with either VR, AR, or MR, and especially with things like the new Oculus and the new HTC, of making them far more portable, Google Daydream, all of these kind of technologies, the ever-expanding scope and speed at which these are becoming prevalent is making it very difficult to keep up. And I think that's where full stack can be extremely useful in both small businesses and big businesses. So I think the benefit of full stack in small businesses is you have that flexibility. So in my company, I am only one of 4 developers, and the ability to be able to work across an entire scope is very, very useful, because it means that then we can just get experts in for the pieces that we need. But then I think there is also extreme use of having full stack developers in an enterprise size company, because it allows you to do that kind of bridging between the different skills. So before I finish, I wanted to touch upon side projects. So last year, the wonderful Mike sitting right there did a talk about the bucket list for people on the web, and he kind of touched upon side projects. And it was something I wanted to include in my talk, so well done, Mike, because I'd like to continue it. I can't express the importance of side projects. Whether you consider yourself full stack or not, I think it goes a long way to helping people understand things that maybe they don't already know. Because you have to go through so many different scopes that maybe you wouldn't in a day-to-day job, where maybe you are just programming in a particular language or doing a particular role. Other people might be doing things for you. And I think there's huge benefit in going through and doing some kind of project. It doesn't matter what it is, what size it is, what scope it is. But I think the ability to go through all of these different points and then continually learn new things, go over stuff, repeat that kind of iterative process is extremely useful. So I'm not sure how long I've been going on for, but hopefully it's just about to finish. So the takeaway of my talk is that I think full stack is misunderstood. I think that it's very easy for people to say that they don't exist, because I think that it comes down to a misconception of what full stack is in the web world. I don't think it is somebody who's excellent in all these different fields. I think it's someone who's potentially an expert in one area, but then has a competency in all the others that helps them bridge those gaps. And really, the ultimate takeaway of my talk is that I want people to learn. I was trying to think of something more snappy to say for this, but essentially I can't express the importance of learning. It makes you more kind of valuable to businesses, it makes you more interesting as developers, and hopefully it makes you feel more fulfilled in your life, because learning things is great. So my takeaway is to basically go away, learn things that you don't know about, and hopefully then make amazing things. So thank you for listening. That's the end of my talk.